Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of TVG Talk. My name is Marcos Trevino, and today I'm joined by Laura Chapa.
Hey guys.
And today we'll be talking about video game remakes. Now, by remakes, we mean excluding remasters, excluding HD things. We want full on, from the ground up remakes, a bit of a reimagining, a bit of new technology going on, all of that. And a lot of great games might need some remakes, some bad games might need some remakes, and overall we'll be talking about some games that we'd be excited to see come back in a
Yeah.
refreshed way. And Lauro, why don't we, as always, start with your pick first? What would be one remake that comes to mind when you think of a game that might require one?
Sure. A series that I think that requires various remakes right now from Nintendo, I think it's Zelda. And I think that the picks that people ask for the most are Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons, Zelda 2. But I think that the game that is overlooked by people asking for remakes, and even in general, is Zelda the Minish Cap, The Legend of Zelda the Minish Cap. And I think that this is a very interesting game that they could remake. I think it has very nice art style still. I think it holds up to this day. But I think that if we saw it in HD, on the big screen, it would look even better. I think it has interesting gameplay mechanics that none other Zelda uses. With you being little and exploring the world like that. Yeah, so I think that they could even go further with that, maybe at even more levels or temples where you're little and sort of play with that more, because I think that was a very interesting mechanic that they only used once. And I think that not a lot of people played this game, so I think that with a remake it would garner lots of new fans.
Yeah, it's interesting because I really like the Minish Cap. I've played it a handful of times myself, and I can see some of what you're saying of remaking it, but don't you think that game isn't quite as dated as maybe some other games could be?
Sure, maybe like Zelda 2, I guess, but I don't think that you know uh, Link's Awakening was particularly dated when they announced the remake. But once I played it, I saw all the little details that they worked on and bettered for the game, and I really appreciate that. So I think that maybe with a little cleanup and so some quality of life adjustments, it could be even better.
Okay. And let's pretend for a moment that you're pitching it to Nintendo. What would you do with the art style? Would you go with a cartoony 2D art style, or would you go with maybe a Wind Waker HD kind of look, since they are kind of using that same style?
Yeah, I would go with more of the Wind Waker HD kind of art style. I think that the cartoony art style will serve better for the Link's Awakening and the Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons games. I think that it would be good to differentiate this game kind of from those a little bit. And with the art style, we could totally do that. And people like the art style of Wind Waker now a lot, so I think that it would serve it really nice.
Okay, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, that could be an interesting experiment. Yeah, I can see it. It's
Right.
It would be kind of trip, to see in real time how the world kind of.
Yeah, I think that they could really do some nice effects with that, and even when playing the Minish Cap on the Game Boy Advance, Link was so little in some parts where you were still in the overworld and you saw Link very little, but it was so little that they had to add an icon so you can see where he was going. I think that in particular they could make something better so you can notice him.
Yeah, I mean, since it's gonna be in 3D, they could scale it much better.
Yeah.
Instead of having that garble of pixels.
Right.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So, for my first discussion piece, I wanted to talk about something that maybe isn't quite what I usually play, but I've been playing a lot of the classic GTA's, the classic 3D GTA's on PC lately, and
Mhm.
I think that there's some really cool stuff in there. But if I wanted to recommend it to people, I think that I have to kind of warn them about how old they are and how they really don't respond to more modern game design things,
Yeah.
especially three. About the GTA games on the PlayStation 2, we have GTA 3, we have San Andreas, and we have Vice City. And I think that all three of them would benefit from a remake. But I think that the one that most desperately needs it is three. I think that a lot of the gameplay is not very satisfying. The world feels very boxy, and a lot of things like that. I mean, as a retro game, it's fantastic. I really liked it. I
Yeah.
thought that it had some really cool things in it. But if we're talking about games that might need a, a makeover, yeah, I definitely think that those three could benefit from that. And I don't know if you would need to remake the or re-record the voices and all that. I don't know the quality in which they are currently, so maybe they could use the same voice acting, maybe the same face acting, all of that. But yeah, I think the GTA games might be a good pick. What do you think?
Yeah, I think those games are great too. I also go back to them from time to time, particularly Vice City. I really like it, and I would like them to go like biggest budget with this, sort of like Final Fantasy VII remake, like remake the music, remake the voices, remake the animations, everything. I really think that those games really need a cleanup and lots of new things. Now, would you want them to remake each game or sort of like make them into one, or like um, sort of sell them together, but you could choose what game to play, or how would you do it?
Since I think that they require like the most care possible, I think that what they could do is just do one by one throughout a generation cycle, maybe. You know, just because I don't want them to do shortcuts. And
Okay.
thinking about 2K, I think that if they bundle them, they would take some shortcuts, and it would be something like, I don't know, that they share all the same music or something weird like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They would do something weird. So yeah, I would much prefer if each game had the fair chance, the fair, full remake,
Yeah.
rather than butcher them all three or butcher whatever.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, and it's really telling to me that even though we have newer Grand Theft Autos, and they're essentially like the same thing, if you were talking about core gameplay, I still go back to those old Grand Theft Autos, and they're still really fun. Even the top view ones, like 1 and 2, I think, they're still really fun, and like each one has their unique thing that makes me go back to them. So I would be really interested to see what they do with each one.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that they all have a very different. I think that it's a mixture of the story, the setting, and by setting I mean the place and also the time frame.
Sure.
Like, it's very, very interesting how accurate they are in terms of capturing the pop culture of each era.
Yeah.
I think that that's something very particular about the GTA games. And
Hmm.
that's something that feels very weird to say about GTA 5, because GTA 5 is so old by this point.
Yeah.
And I think the world has changed a lot. Like, pop culture has changed a lot.
Mm.
And no GTA kind of captures today, so to speak. But yeah, I think that that's the kind of things that really uh, help make the GTA games stand the test of time. You
Yeah,
know,
for sure.
and and I think remaking them properly and respecting what they were doing, I think that could really benefit each game.
Yeah, yeah. Don't try to make them like just like GTA 5 or GTA 6.
Yeah, I mean, I remember GoldenEye Reloaded, the one that they made for the Wii and then the other consoles.
Yeah.
And it was terrible. It was just a Call of Duty
Yeah.
with Daniel Craig. It was not even Pierce Brosnan. It was horrible.
Yeah, it lost all the magic.
Yeah, it was not at all what the original game was. So yeah, just respect the original, make it new, and I think you'll be safe.
Mhm.
So yeah, what's your next remake proposal / pitch?
So my next pick, it's from a series that I think it's heavily underrated. It's from Nintendo. It's a platforming series, and it's Wario Land. Particularly the first trilogy, I guess. Wario Land 1, 2, and 3. 3 was the one that I played the most. It was on Game Boy Color, and I think that it really had some really unique, mechanics and vibes and music. It was to me so different from any other platform game. I really enjoyed the level design, and I really enjoyed the characters and all the different Wario antics he had. I'm choosing the first 3 because I think that the first 2 don't really have enough content in them. We could even throw the Virtual Boy one. I really haven't played that. No, I actually kind of played like 5 minutes of it.
Oh, really?
I played the Virtual Boy, yeah.
Nice.
And but yeah, I don't really think that has enough content. So yeah, throw it in here too. And I'm not choosing 4 or Shake It because I think that they could be their own separate remix. But yeah, I think that very few people have played this series, and I think it's really, really good. And a remake would help it tremendously because the first ones are Game Boy games, and they're very limited in what they can do both graphically and gameplay wise. And the third one too is just on the Game Boy Color, so I think that it would serve it tremendously.
Yeah, I played those games maybe like 5 years ago on the 3DS Virtual Console.
Nice.
I played all the way from the first Mario Land all the way to the Game Boy Color Wario Land, and it was quite a ride. I mean, yeah, like you said, they are very different platformers. I think that they have a very unique style, kind of like the Yoshi platformers. Like they are very different from Mario games, which I think is kind of hard to communicate when you don't know them. So yeah, I think they would be really cool. Like you're saying, they're a little bit light on content, and yeah, bundling them would be a good idea. I think. Kind of like they are not remakes, but the Mana games that were all ported together to all platforms. I think that's something like that, but with remakes. Would be
kind of like the Crash games.
Yeah, kind of like the Crash games, actually. Yeah, but that's a better example, actually.
Yeah.
And what art style were you envisioning for this collection?
I really wasn't envisioning a particular art style. I think the art style from Shake It, Wario Land Shake It, would fit it quite good. It has a really unique art style that they haven't used ever since, because there hasn't been a Wario Land game since. So yeah, I think that route they could take.
Yeah, I think so too. It'd be a good one. Yeah, and yeah, I think the Virtual Boy game kind of needs it more in a sense, just because it's so inaccessible as it is right now.
Right.
Like you were saying, you have to experience the full Virtual Boy experience thing to play it, and I don't think that there are many people with Virtual Boys these days.
No.
So yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a very good one, I think. In terms of games that have potential, but we got even further.
Yeah.
So my next game is a Nintendo game. It's a Fire Emblem game, and believe it or not, there are a lot of contenders for a Fire Emblem remake.
There's lots of them.
I was looking at it from different angles, and I decided on the selfish one. I decided with Fire Emblem Trakia 7, 7, 6. The reason is that I've heard really good things about it,
Yeah.
but I'm not a fan translation type of player. I really want to wait for the official ones, simply because I feel like I'm not quite playing the real thing, if
Yeah.
otherwise. So I really want them to tackle this game and remake it, not just port it, of course. And White Trackia, I've heard that it's one of the best ones. It has very interesting ideas and characters. I've heard that the story is very dark. I've heard that the game is very hard. And, I'm ready for both those things on Fire Emblem. So, yep, Trackia 776. That's the one I picked.
Nice. Do you know if that Fireman features any sort of character that we know? Like, does it feature Mart, for example, or that's not a Mart game?
It's not a Mart game. It's not. But I don't know if it has like the kind of anthologic characters like Anna or Tiki. I don't know if they appear in this game, but I know that the story is not like Awakening or something where they connect to the first games. I think this one is one of those games that is completely unrelated.
Right.
I think that it's even on its own continuity. If I'm mistaken about that,
Okay.
I'll put it somewhere on the video.
Sure.
I think so. So yeah, and I was thinking about other Fire Emblems as well. Like maybe remake the first two with Marth. I mean 1 and 3 because 2 is Gaiden. But I was thinking those, but I thought we already had the first one on the DS, and we had Shadows of Valentia, which you could make the argument about remaking them for the Switch, but I ultimately went with the one where English-speaking players just don't have an official way to play Thrakia, so that was the reason.
Right. And would you want them to like do it like full on budget, like have voice actors and have cutscenes and whatnot, or what were you thinking?
Yeah, it would be weird if it didn't go that way, because Shadows of Valentia feels like they went all out for that one.
Yeah.
Like it was, in my opinion, or I don't think that this is a hot take or anything, but it's the Fire Emblem with the highest production values, like up to that point, and it was a remake. So,
right.
I don't see any reason to not do the same for this game.
Yeah, totally.
So, what's your next remake proposal?
So my next pick is also a game that I love, another platformer, and it's Kirby the Amazing Mirror. And I want a remake for this game for various reasons. I think that the Kirby series has been stale for some time. I think that the great games are great, but the other ones are not much different. And this one, Kirby the Amazing Mirror, is really different from the other ones, but it's still a platformer. It has elements of Metroidvania. It has multiplayer, so you could play co-op with up to 4 people, I think. And it really features some of the most interesting level design, I think, in Kirby games. Interesting bosses. It doesn't use DDD, which I'm not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing that they use DDD all the time, but this one doesn't, so it feels different because of that. And yeah, I think this game would be perfect to be on the Switch, and maybe even have online multiplayer and whatnot.
Yeah, it's a really good one. I think that online multiplayer might be the way to justify that game. Like justify it on a why would people outside of the Kirby fandom be interested in that game?
Yeah.
I think, or either that one or download play or something like that, where you can connect with other people. I think that would be really cool, and it's a good game. I think as an introductory Metroidvania is really good. So yeah, I think that it's a good pick. I would only contest you on the Kirby going stale thing, because I really don't think it's all that stale. I really don't think it's all that stale. I played Planet Robobot, and
Mhm.
I think that it's one of the most unique Kirby's out there. But it was, completely ignored because the Switch was on the horizon when it
Right.
came out. So, yeah. Uh, but yeah, so I guess that I should go to my next pick,
Sure, go ahead.
which this game is one of my favorite Zelda duologies. It's the Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages saga, so to speak. So the obvious thing about it is that Link's Awakening already came out, so it's very easy to kind of uh, think, oh, it's the same thing, but for that game,
Yeah.
for those games, I should say.
Mhm.
Well, not quite. I think that if they were going to remake them, they would have to bundle them up in one. I think that
Yeah.
joining them would be a really good way to kind of not only streamline but expand the experience. I had a very funny experience. You know what? Growing up, I only had Oracle of Seasons.
Hmm.
It seemed to me kind of like they were too similar. I don't know. I was little back then.
Yeah.
Uh, but on the 3DS, I actually played them together. I think that I told you this.
Yeah.
I bought Seasons, played through it, and played
Hmm.
through Ages, and it was kind of cool to have that experience. So I think that if you could make that into one game and maybe bring ideas from the third version that they scrapped,
Yeah.
I think that with those elements, you could have a really special bundle for the players and call it something the Oracle of Seasons and Ages or the Oracles of whatever. But yeah, the point is, I think that it could be a cool experience, a cool definitive experience for that game. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. I played them recently on the three. Well, not so recently, on the 3DS too. I didn't play them originally. I, just like you, I was confused. Like, are there two games? Am I? I don't know enough about Zelda to tell the difference. What's happening here? But playing them both on the 3DS, it was a really cool experience, as you said, and I really like that joining them and maybe unlocking the third one once you finish them both, and adding new things to it. Maybe they could go something crazy with like you playing some part of Ages and then Seasons and then going back to the other one and like sort of like um, alternating which game you're playing. I think that they could do lots of things to make this a really unique experience. Thinking about it, Zelda on handheld always has really unique experiences. I was talking about Minish Cap and that gameplay thing about going little, and then there's like the DS games where you use a stylus and whatnot, and these games where you need both of them to like fully experience this game. Um, Link Between Worlds for the thing of the walls. So yeah, I think uh, that having the complete experience would be really nice on the Switch.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, what's interesting is that when you talked about earlier the Amazing Mirror game,
Yeah.
I was kind of also reminded of the Four Swords games and
Hmm.
Triforce Heroes as well, but Four Swords games. And it would be
Yeah.
interesting to see them release them today simply because the multiplayer for those games is very difficult to get to.
Right.
And, you know, if I'm gonna be on a bit of a sad note, I guess I really tried to do a Four Swords Adventure Party once, but no one was down to it, or not enough people, I should say. You were down, our friend Carlos was down, but
Yeah.
then we were missing another player, so we never really did it. And
Yeah.
I think that on the Switch it would be easier to
Much
persuade
easier.
people into
Yeah.
into joining our little adventure.
Yeah,
So,
and even with online, it would be simple.
yeah, with online would be amazing,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially if they allowed you to play with people for free. With the download
Right.
play type copy.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
be the way to go, in my opinion.
Perfect. Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of Zelda games
Yeah.
are
Lots of Zelda,
yeah
and yeah, because I think that accessibility is one thing. Like we don't have many of them on the Switch. I think that Zelda 2 could also be getting a great remake, and I would be interested to see how they would manage, a port or a remake of Phantom Hourglass or Spirit Tracks on the Switch. I would.
That's super interesting. The DS games are, like you said, because they are so unique.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would do with them, because it's easy to kind of say, oh, get rid of the touch controls, but then they do interesting things with the touch controls. So what do you do then?
Right.
The same with the Skyward Sword, which has been rumored a lot and talked about a lot. And what do? Do you remove the thing that people dislikes?
Yeah.
But in that process, you might be destroying the game. So
yeah,
it's always interesting to talk about.
So you chose another Zelda. I'm talking about another Fire Emblem, and I kind of went with a similar logic as you, with accessibility. I chose Fire Emblem: The Binding Blade, and this one too is only in Japanese, and I think that it hasn't been released even on virtual consoles or anything like that. And it features a character that a lot of people know thanks to Smash, being Roy. It's really funny that a lot of people have played Smash. Smash Bros. Ultimate is one of the most sold games on the Switch, but very few people have played Roy's game. So I think it would be really interesting to see, his origins. I haven't played personally. I'm the same as you. I don't really want to play those fan translations or whatever. And I'm really interested to see what this game is about. I have friends who have played it, the fan translations, and also have heard fantastic things about this game. So I kind of went with this one in particular over maybe yours or another one, simply because the fact of Roy. I think that he and Marth are by now really recognizable Nintendo characters, and I think that would help to bring people into Fire Emblem, because there's always that stigma with Fire Emblem that it's always anime swordsman, but there are people that say that are really depriving themselves from a great series, in my opinion.
Fire Emblem, in terms of tactical RPGs, there is no one where they are, in terms of the consistency and the quality. And it's hard to disagree with your pick, because it's, when you think about it, a turning point for Fire Emblem. That's when the creator left the series. That's when where, like you were saying, Roy comes from, and that's the character that popularized the series as a whole for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And we've never had it here. So it's a very interesting game and a very important game for the series. It would be great to have it over here and in the entire world. And it's kind of funny to have the prequel game in Blazing Sword, but not have the original. It's kind of weird. So it's a good pick. A lot of Game Boy from you. A lot of Game Boy. And you mentioned the Smash representation. I don't know, man. I do want them to remake Mother 3. It's such a tired topic in a sense, but it's a game that we're honestly missing. It's one of the big RPGs that Nintendo has made that we've never gotten here. And it's so weird, because it's such a... Earthbound is such a... It's a game, it's a series with such a passionate fan base. And we're yet to see the third game. There are just 3 games, and we've never seen one. And the first one we saw so recently, not even 5 years ago. It's so weird. But I think that Mother 3 could be part of a trilogy remake, be alone, could be whatever, not even a remake if you don't want to,
Yeah.
but just out there, just out there.
Yeah, and it's so weird because we know we're not getting more Mother games, unless they, say F you to the creator and make more. But I really don't think that they will. So yeah, having that incomplete series over in America is really weird, and I think that it would be so easy just to port it. People have been asking for it for a long time, so it's really weird that they really haven't done anything with this game. So what were you thinking for the remake? What art style, even what kind of gameplay do you think that they could go even further and make it some sort of like Earthbound 64 kind of game, or would you want it to be 2D or what?
So Earthbound 64 is in theory Mother 3 is a remake from the N64 game. That's something that
Right.
some fans have known for quite a while now.
Mhm.
So that's an interesting question. I think that what they could do visually is go with the promotional claymation things that they made. There's one for Lucas. There's another one for his brother, which I forget his name right now. And some other characters have those little figurines out there for from posters and whatnot. So if they could capture that art style in the game and do it, maybe 2.5. I don't think that they have to remake the game in that sense. I think that it could still be 2D. I don't think that they need to make it third person or something. But yeah, maybe it looks similar to the Kirby and the Rainbow Curse game that looked like it was made out of clay. Something like that they could do, and I think that it could be a success if they did it right.
Yeah.
And similarly, the other two, I think that they could do something similar with their respective promotional material. They have this kind of PVC-looking toys for Earthbound, and the same for Earthbound Beginnings. They had their own thing, so they could do that. They could capture that sort of intended art style. I think that it would look really nice and very different, and really mesh well with how different Earthbound is. So
yeah, it's weird to me that they, we have the ports of those games, but to me they would be like milking this series to the death because we know we're not getting more, so they will be changing art styles and making remakes and HD remasters and whatnot. But there's some reason we're not getting them.
I think that the reason we don't get them is I might be speculating about too much, but I think that there's some emotional baggage with these games. That's why Shigesato Itoi is so protective of the trilogy. He feels very attached to it, and I think that translates also into remakes. I think that's what it is. I think that just recently he made there's been a handful of times where Earthbound or the Mother series has had merchandise made out of it. Very handful of times. It's surprising. And just recently they made another line of merchandise, and there are so few things. So I think that's what it is. I think that he is very protective of the series.
Right.
And that translates into Nintendo not really being able to know what to do for a Mother 3 release. Do we just port it? Do we remake it? But maybe he doesn't want to. And, I think that complicates things.
Sure, definitely.
So a lot of ups and downs, so to speak, in this conversation. Any other remakes that you'd like to talk about?
Sure. So to no one's surprise, I'm picking another Game Boy game, and it's a really obscure one, and
Okay.
I'm just picking it because I think that the series we still need to see more from it. I want a remake for Kid Icarus of Myths and Monsters. So hear me out, because I know that this is a really weird pick. You know, this game really doesn't have that much to offer. I think that it's, you know, platforming is very basic, and it's, you know, enemy design and level design is also very basic. But I think that they could turn it into like sort of a bullet hell type of game, kind of like what they did with Uprising, but not quite. Maybe, you know, a harder game like uh, Ikaruga, or those type of games. I think that
Right.
would be interesting. Maybe I think that, you know, I've seen the levels and whatnot, and I felt like it was going to be sort of Metroidvania-ish, but it really isn't. I think that adding elements to that would make it also interesting. So yeah, I just want to see more from Kid Icarus, and I think that, you know, by starting with a remake, they could really get the series back on track.
Very interesting choice. I'm thinking about what they about that game. I played it so long ago. I'm like trying to remember what it was like. And yeah, it was not particularly remarkable, but
Yeah,
I mean that could be a perfect reason to remake it.
right, right, right.
So, and would you like them to actually remake it, or would you like them to kind of do what they did with Uprising, where they kind of made a sequel, but it was also kind of a remake at first, and then it becomes a new thing? Or what would you like them to do? In that sense, would you like them to be like, yes, this is a remake of that game, or is this a remake slash sequel?
I think that a complete remake, like the original doesn't exist, and now this is
Okay, okay.
the one that exists now. But also trying different things. You know, I think that
Yeah, the
game,
bullet hell thing is already
yeah, very very different, right? So yeah, and I think that, you know, story wise and whatnot, it could even be a sequel to Uprising. I think that the story is not particularly interesting too, and nothing that they couldn't change or modify. You know, I think that they could go with the same sort of idea, but, you know, adapt it to what they've established now.
Yeah, so there's something interesting about the sort of context of that game. I don't remember if Nintendo did it themselves, but I do remember that they didn't release it in Japan. The first time it reached Japan was through the 3DS Virtual Console.
Interesting.
So it would be interesting to see what Nintendo, or it would be interesting to know what Nintendo thinks of that game,
Yeah.
uh, since it's kind of a fake Kid Icarus, maybe to Japanese players. I don't know, but since they never got it, maybe that's the way they feel.
They probably don't
Uh,
even know about it.
yeah, I suspect not many people downloaded it
Yeah.
for 3DS.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it would be interesting. I mean, I forget the story of that game even. Uh, but yeah, it would be interesting to see Kid Icarus return at all. I mean,
Yeah.
Uprising has been what 9 years ago, something like that.
Yeah. Probably. Maybe even
Yeah,
more.
maybe even more. Yikes. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do you have any other remakes that you'd like to talk about?
No, not really. We were thinking about talking like some Pokemon games, but I think we both are
Right.
sure that they'll keep on churning those remakes, whether it be with the Let's Go series or the regular series. I think next one would be Generation 4, right? With the regular ones.
Yeah,
Or
if it's interesting because they kind of restarted with the Let's Go, you know,
yeah,
like you were talking about. But I think that it's funny because both Hard Gold and Soul Silver and the Diamond and Pearl games are not that much older. Like they both are
yeah.
pretty contemporary, so
Hmm.
it could go either way. But if you ask me, what I would prefer to see is first Diamond and Pearl, and then
Yeah.
Let's Go Gold and Silver. That's the way that I hope they go, and that's the way I think they'll go actually.
Yeah.
Because it would be kind of nuts to see how 3 different versions of the original or the mainline games coexist on the Switch. It will be very interesting to see because, yeah, it's a lot of Pokemon.
Right.
So,
but man, do they really sell those games?
Yeah, I was just reading the other day that Sword and Shield are the best-selling games in the series.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's crazy.
They'll keep chugging them along. No issue.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and you know, something that I would hope that they do, particularly with Let's Go games, because I feel like Diamond and Pearl will be essentially Sword and Shield, but in Sinnoh. That's the way it's always been. But with the Let's Go games, I hope that they go a little bit more crazy with Gold and Silver. I feel like Pikachu and Eevee were a little too reserved. It was a fun time, don't get me wrong, but it felt too reserved, too similar. I do hope that they try a thing or two in there.
Yeah, I think that they should use that series to experiment a little, you know, maybe change mechanics a bit and whatnot, layout of the games, because most of the time, even when they change things up in the main Pokemon games, it really is always the same thing. So I think that with them having a series to experiment with, it would really benefit them.
Yeah, you know, I think that's something that it was really cool about the game was the introduction of the... I'm always with like the crappiest things, but the Pokeball Plus.
Right.
To me, it was a really cool idea to be able to play the entire game with the ball. And to be able to take it with you and go to places with your Pokemon and everything. Right. It was really fun. It's funny. I cringe a little thinking about what people probably thought when I was like walking and suddenly they would hear the noises that the Pokeball does. And like, oh my God, this 20-something dude playing with Pokemon. But it was really fun, honestly. So yeah, I hope to see something like that in terms of being very integrating as part of the experience. But at the same time, I hope that they put Pro Controller support and other things, because I do worry a little bit about the accessibility of the game of Let's Go. I feel that it could have been a little bit excluding having such a specific control set, you know. But I digress.
Series needs to be like the most accessible, the most friendly, because I think that it would be an entry point for people to play sort of mainline Pokemon.
Yeah, and Let's Go totally was. I know a lot of people that were like, you know, my last Pokemon was like Gold, or my last Pokemon was Sapphire, or something like that. And they go like, yeah, and I picked Let's Go. I like Let's Go Pikachu. And I thought that it was a genius move to remake Yellow specifically, you know, because you get the Team Rocket from the anime, you get Pikachu, you get all these references that are like both game and anime, which is quite frankly what a lot of people know Pokemon for. Right. So yeah, I think that Let's Go could be a good opportunity, like you were saying, to experiment on that idea. So yeah, you know, it's funny, we didn't want to talk about the Pokemon games, and here we are. Right. Talking a bunch about them. Yeah. So what else would you like to talk about?
That's it.
That's it? Yeah, that's it for me too. You know, the bad thing about these conversations is that even if some of those get made, not everything will get made, so we'll have to see what happens. I'm very excited to see how they could reimagine some of these games that we talked about today. Yeah. And you know, you talked a lot about the Game Boy games, but quite frankly, Nintendo has been remaking a lot of Game Boy games. You know, I was looking at some of the games that I have for the 3DS and Switch, and a good number of them were Game Boy remakes. Samus Returns, Let's Go Pikachu, and Link's Awakening. So yeah, so what we have left is to pass the question off to you guys. What remakes do you think that we might be seeing in the near future? Some of them that you might be thinking, some that we were talking about today. Whatever it is, do let us know in the comments below. This has been Paco Trevino, and today, as always, I was joined by Laura Chapa.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Until next time, bye, guys.